Ever get that feeling like you're just spinning your wheels in sales, talking to loads of people, putting in all this effort,
Oh, absolutely.
but wondering how do you actually find the ones who are the right fit,
Hmm.
the ones you can genuinely help?
That feeling is so common. And it really shines a light on why sales qualification, doing it strategically,
Yeah.
is just so vital. It's about using your energy wisely,
Well, exactly. Focusing. And that's what we're really digging into today. We've got this great resource you shared, Sales Qualification Questions 2.pdf.
Right.
And we're not just scratching the surface. We want to pull out those actionable insights that can actually change how you approach sales.
Yeah, the mission here is to give you a solid, practical grasp of sales qualification. The main idea is the techniques you can actually use so you can really focus your efforts, cut down on wasted time, and ultimately close more deals that actually matter.
Because it's not just about having a great product, is it?
Yeah.
Good sales, really great sales, they start with asking great questions, understanding the person.
Couldn't agree more. And qualification isn't just some optional extra. It's fundamental if you want a sustainable, profitable business. It helps you sidestep so many common pitfalls.
Okay, let's get into it then. Why is sales qualification such a game changer?
Well, think about it like this. Good qualification gives you this powerful trifecta. First, higher close rates, because you're talking to the right people.
Makes sense.
Second, it slashes your costs. You stop chasing leads that are just never going to pan out.
Right.
And third, maybe surprisingly, it builds better customer relationships because you're actually helping people who value what you do.
Okay, that sounds great. But what happens if you, skip that step? What's the downside of just trying to sell to anyone and everyone?
Oh, the fallout can be pretty rough. You pour time, money, resources into talks with people or companies who just aren't a fit. So low conversion rates, naturally, vary. But it doesn't stop there. Say you do manage to sell to someone who wasn't really qualified, you're likely looking at high churn rates later. They weren't the right fit. They get dissatisfied. They leave.
Ah.
And maybe the worst part, you can end up with unprofitable customers where the cost to get them and keep them is actually more than they bring in. It's just a drain.
Ouch.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds painful. Like trying to fill a leaky bucket.
Exactly. The source actually uses a great analogy. It calls qualification a water filter.
Okay.
It lets you sift through all those leads and keep only the really promising ones, the ones that fit your business. So your resources go where they should.
That's a really strong visual. A water filter. Suddenly asking those questions feels less like an interrogation and more like just being smart,
Yeah.
efficient.
Right.
The real aha moment for me there
Yeah.
is realizing the sheer scale of the cost savings. It's not just about closing more, it's about stopping the waste.
Precisely. And let's look at how it actually does that.
Yeah.
How does qualification cut costs and boost sales?
Uh-huh.
There are a few key ways.
Lay 'em on us.
Okay, first, by identifying those high potential prospects early on, you focus all your valuable resources, your team's time, your marketing budget, right where they'll have the biggest impact.
Makes sense. Targeted effort.
Second, asking smart questions, especially about budget, need, and who actually makes the decisions, the authority makes your sales forecasting way more accurate. You're working with facts, not just guesses.
Okay.
Third, when you really get their pain points, what they're trying to achieve, you can tailor your approach, build real trust. That leads to happier customers who stick around.
Better relationships.
Exactly. And finally, it's simple math, really. Focus on pre-qualified leads. Your success rate naturally goes up. You're aiming at the right target.
Yeah, I can totally see how those pieces connect. It's like a positive feedback loop, starting with good questions. Can you maybe give us a real-world example, like a business that really turned things around by getting serious about qualification?
Sure. I worked with a marketing automation company. They used to give out free trials like candy, hoping volume would translate to sales.
Ah, the spray and pray approach.
Pretty much. Their sales team was swamped, chasing tons of leads, but many were just kicking tires, didn't have budget, wrong kind of business, just burning resources.
Sounds exhausting.
It was. So they implemented a clear qualification process, asked specific things, company size, marketing spend, current tech stack. They narrowed their focus dramatically to their ideal customer profile.
And the result?
Transformative, honestly. Sales cycles got shorter, close rates jumped up significantly, and interestingly, customer satisfaction improved too because they were working with clients who actually got real value from the platform. They stopped wasting time.
That's powerful. A really clear case for qualification.
Yeah.
Okay, so we get the why. Now, let's get practical. How do we actually use questions to figure out if someone's a good fit?
Right, the how. It really starts with getting a baseline understanding. The source material points to a few key approaches here.
Okay, walk us through those first steps.
First up, you start with some, let's call them foundational questions, basic screening. Things like, what's your company name? Obvious, but necessary.
Right.
Which industry are you in? Roughly how many employees do you have? This gives you that initial snapshot. Does this company even look like our typical successful customer?
Simple checks first. Got it. What's next?
Then it often makes sense to use a structured framework. And the source really highlights BANT. You've probably heard of it.
BANT, yeah. Budget, authority, need, timeline. Classic.
Exactly. It's a really solid tool for digging a bit deeper into their potential as a customer.
Okay, let's break BANT down. Budget. How do you ask about money without making it awkward right away?
Good question. The source suggests something like, do you currently have a budget set aside for this kind of solution, or is that something you'd need to plan for? It probes gently.
Okay, less direct. What about authority? Figuring out who calls the shots.
There, you might ask, who else besides yourself would typically be involved in making a decision on this type of investment? Gets a lay of the land.
Need. Understanding their problem.
You could ask, what are the main challenges or maybe opportunities you're focusing on right now? Open-ended.
And timeline. When do they need it?
Something like, do you have a general time frame in mind for when you'd ideally like to have a solution in place? See? Each part gives you crucial info.
Yeah, that BANT framework definitely gives you a clear structure for those early talks, like a mental checklist. Beyond BANT, though, what else should we be thinking about when we're sizing up a potential customer?
Well, beyond those specific BANT points, it's really important to step back and see how this prospect fits into your bigger picture, your business goals.
Okay.
After you gather that initial info, compare it. Does this company profile, do their needs actually align with your ideal customer, your strategic direction? Is this the kind of customer you want long term?
So it's not just about can they buy, but should they buy from us strategically?
Exactly. It's about the long-term fit. And one more thing, don't forget the first impression. Asking thoughtful, relevant questions shows you care. It shows you're interested in them, not just the sale. That builds rapport right away.
Definitely. Good question, show you've done your homework too. Okay, so we know why it matters, how to start analyzing fit. Let's talk about that very first contact. How do we kick off the conversation and ask good questions from the jump?
Right, that initial interaction is key. The source points out it has two jobs, really. One, make a good impression, obviously, but two, it's your first real chance to start gathering that crucial info you need to see if they're even potentially qualified.
Makes sense. Be human, build connection, but also start the recon.
Exactly. And interestingly, the source suggests doing some thinking before you even reach out, some internal homework.
Oh, like what should we ask ourselves first?
Well, things like, where can we realistically serve customers? Geographic limits. Also, where can't we serve them effectively?
Okay, practical stuff.
Define that target buyer persona really clearly. Characteristics, role, pains. What's the ideal size of business we work best with? Do we have niche industry expertise we should focus on?
Right.
What's the lowest discount we can offer and still be profitable? Which customers get the most value from us? How many resources do we actually need to give amazing service? And how fast can we deliver once the deal is done?
Wow, that's quite a list for internal reflection. What's the main payoff for doing that self-analysis?
Clarity, mainly, and alignment. Your sales team gets super clear on who they should be talking to. It aligns your sales efforts with your actual business goals. You stop chasing everything that moves.
Right, sharpens the focus. Okay, internal prep done. Now we reach out. What kind of questions are good for that very first touch point?
The source calls these awareness questions. They're about establishing that baseline understanding. Who are they? What's their initial interest level? They usually fall into three buckets: general info, initial needs, and organizational details.
Okay, let's hit those buckets. General info first.
Yeah, the basics. Company name, location, contact details, email, phone, website, what industry, B2B or B2C. And their job title helps you understand their role.
Standard stuff to get started. What about understanding their initial needs or interest? What brought them to you?
Here you're trying to gauge engagement, like, are you interested in a consultation or maybe seeing a demo, or which specific products or services caught your eye? Maybe, would you like to subscribe to our blog or follow on social? Which channels are you active on? And a good one is, what topics or challenges are you most interested in right now? Gives you early clues.
Okay, so understanding why they raised their hand. And the last bucket, organizational details.
Yeah, this gives context on their maturity and scale. Confirm the company name again, maybe ask, how long have you been in business and roughly how many customers do you serve? Just gives you a feel for their size.
So these awareness questions paint that first broad picture. What's the big benefit of asking these early on?
Well, two things. One, your sales team gets that essential starting data to see if they're even in the ballpark, basic suitability. But two, it builds rapport. Asking about their business shows you're interested in them, makes them feel valued, opens the door for a better conversation later.
Okay, now this is super important. We need this info, but nobody wants to feel like they're being grilled, right? How do we ask these questions without sounding like a robot just checking boxes? Not too salesy.
Yeah, that's the art, isn't it? It's a major hurdle. The key is making it feel like a genuine conversation. You're trying to understand them, help them, not just extract data. The source has some really good techniques for this.
Okay, I'm ready. How do we probe without being pushy?
One great way is using conversational questions. Instead of blurting out, what's your budget? Maybe try, have you looked into solutions like this before? What did that investment look like and how did it work out? Often gets you the budget info indirectly plus extra context.
Sneaky.
No.
I like it.
Yeah.
What else?
Using hypothetical scenarios works well too. Lets them talk about needs without feeling pressured. Like, if you had a magic wand and could fix one thing about your current process instantly, what would it be?
Oh, that's a good one. Gets them thinking about priorities. Any other tricks?
Open-ended questions are your best friend. Questions that can't be answered with just yes or no. They encourage detail. Things like, what are your main goals for the business this year? Or, tell me a bit about the biggest challenges your team is facing right day to day.
Right, get them talking.
And finally, always show you understand and want to help. Frame it like you're trying to see if there's a fit that benefits them. Maybe say, companies in your industry often struggle with, mention a common pain point. Is that something you're seeing too?
Those are brilliant. It really shifts the dynamic from interrogation to collaboration, building trust. I can totally see how that encourages people to open up more.
Exactly. That trust is everything. Okay, let's circle back to BANT now. Budget, authority, need, timeline. It's such a core tool for that deeper dive into qualification.
Right, BANT. We touched on it, but let's go deeper. Why is really using this framework effectively so important?
Well, the source makes a good point. Think of BANT as a guide, a globally recognized one, not a rigid script you have to follow word for word. It's there to structure your thinking, make sure you cover the key bases.
Okay, a flexible guide, not strict rules.
Yeah.
But what makes it such a useful guide?
Efficiency, mostly. It helps you stop wasting time on prospects who just aren't going to buy. By systematically exploring budget, authority, need, and timeline, you get a much richer picture of their situation. That means more relevant conversations and, frankly, a better shot at closing the deal.
Makes total sense. Okay, let's get really specific then. What are some more maybe nuanced example questions for each part of BANT? Let's start with budget. How can we dig in there?
Okay, for budget, beyond the basics, you could try. Do you have a specific budget allocated for this, or is it still in the planning phase? Or what's the approximate budget range you're thinking of for this kind of investment? Maybe, would a solution costing around give a broad range fit with what you were expecting? Okay. You could also ask about past spending. What have you typically invested in similar solutions before? Or even, what's the usual annual spend in this area for your company? Maybe ask about payment terms. Are you flexible on how payments are structured? Like, could an annual payment work?
Right.
And even link it to value. Considering the potential ROI we discussed, what kind of financial impact are you aiming for? See how they approach it from different angles. Focus on priorities and value.
Yeah, definitely more sophisticated than just, what's your budget? They invite a real conversation. Okay, what about authority? How do we figure out who the real decision maker is without stepping on toes?
For authority, try. Who will be primarily involved in evaluating this and making the final call? If it's not just them, ask, are there other stakeholders whose input or approval is needed? Be proactive. Would it be helpful to include any colleagues or managers in our next chat? Address internal hurdles early. Are there standard approval processes for projects like this? And maybe find the internal champion. Who in the company first flagged the need for something like this? The key, as the source says, is respect. Frame it as wanting to make sure everyone's in the loop, not like you're trying to go around them.
Yeah, that framing is crucial, ensuring everyone's included. Okay, need. This is about their why, right?
Yeah.
Their pain points, their goals. How do we uncover those effectively?
Absolutely. To really get their why, ask things like, What are the top priorities for your organization over the next, say, 12 to 18 months? Or what are the biggest roadblocks stopping you from hitting those priorities? Dig into their current situation. How are you tackling these challenges now, and what's not working so well? Ask about desired outcomes. What specific improvements are you hoping to see from a new solution? Use your industry knowledge. We see many companies in your space dealing with specific pain. Is that hitting you too? Understanding competitors can reveal needs. What do you think gives your competitors an edge right now? And get practical. What are some of the daily frustrations your team deals with? Open-ended questions are key here. Let them tell their story.
Those really get to the heart of their business drivers. Okay, last one. Timeline. How do we nail down when they actually need or want this?
For timeline, be more specific. What's your ideal time frame for getting a solution like this up and running? Or when are you hoping to start seeing results? Maybe how long have you been actively looking for a fix for this? And practically, are there any key dates or internal deadlines we should be aware of? The source also adds a great tip. If they don't have a timeline, help them build one. Talk about typical rollouts and link it to their goals.
So BANT really facilitates a structured, insightful chat. It gets beyond the surface to their real motivations and constraints.
Exactly. And like the source sums up, using BANT well means you qualify leads better, analyze them faster, save time and money, and boost your odds of closing deals with customers you actually understand and can help.
Okay, BANT gives us solid qualification. But to really connect and show value, we need to grasp the bigger impact on their business, right? What questions help us uncover that?
Right. Shifting to what the source calls business impact questions is key for framing your value proposition effectively. These questions help uncover the results, both tangible and intangible, that the customer hopes to achieve.
Okay, what kinds of impact should we be thinking about?
The source breaks it into three main areas: quantitative, long-term, and qualitative. Quantitative is the measurable stuff. So ask, what specific increase in sales are you hoping for from this? Or are there particular areas where you're looking to cut costs?
Got it. Numbers.
Long-term impact taps into their strategy. Ask, what's your vision for the business in, say, the next 3-5 years? Or what are some of your key long-term goals?
Bigger picture.
And qualitative impact explores the softer benefits. Things like, how do you think this will affect your team's efficiency or morale? What are some less obvious positive outcomes you're hoping for? And which departments do you think will see the biggest positive change?
Those questions really link our solution to their overall strategy, much deeper than just features. What's the main advantage of getting this business impact understanding?
It builds huge confidence and trust. It shows you're not just pushing a product, you're invested in their success, their goals. This deeper understanding lets you tailor your pitch much more effectively, speaking directly to what matters most to them. It just makes closing deals much more efficient.
Okay, now for a tricky bit, talking about competitors. How do we ask about them professionally, get insights, but avoid sounding negative or, defensive?
You're right, it's delicate. The source is very clear. Absolutely no bad-mouthing competitors. The goal is purely to understand the customer's view, their experiences, and where you fit in their decision process.
So what are some good techniques for asking professionally?
Start open-ended, get them talking. Like, what are the must-have capabilities you're looking for in a solution? Or can you walk me through your current workflow and the tools you use now? Link it back to their goals. What are your main KPIs and how are you tracking them? And keep it conversational, not an interrogation. Be curious.
Good tips. How do we make sure we stay neutral when the competitor's name comes up?
Key guidelines from the source. 1, never say anything negative about them, period. 2, keep the focus laser sharp on the customer's needs and priorities, not on comparing features head to head. And 3, again, use open-ended questions. Let them share their experiences and opinions.
Focus on the customer, stay neutral. Got it. What are some actual questions we could ask about competitors or the industry?
The source has some good ones. Have you looked at any other similar solutions? What were your thoughts on those? What made you decide to look into our company? Are there specific features you've seen elsewhere that are really important to you? Are you currently under contract with anyone else in this space? What frustrations have you had with past or current solutions? What are the main criteria you're using to evaluate options? And overall, what are your expectations for a new solution?
Those are really good. They get at their experiences and criteria without being negative. Okay, how do we use this discussion to actually gain a professional advantage?
The source suggests a few ways. When you differentiate, use data and facts, not just opinions. Like, client studies show our solution cuts processing time by 30% on average. Highlight your unique value. Instead of knocking others, focus on what you do best. We specialize in highly customized solutions for your industry. That's something our clients really value. And ask questions that create openings for you. Are there any needs your current provider isn't fully meeting?
So, showcase strengths, address unmet needs, use proof. It sounds like talking competitors is less about them and more about highlighting our relevant value effectively.
Precisely. It shows you know the landscape, you can solve problems, and builds trust.
Okay, great advice. We've gone from awareness through BANT, even competitors. Now, how do we help someone move from just being interested to actually being ready to buy? What questions gauge that readiness?
Yeah, figuring out if they're really ready is crucial for guiding the conversation towards a close. The source calls these advancement questions, and there are some key principles.
What are those principles for asking good advancement questions?
Use open-ended questions so they can voice any last thoughts or concerns. Be direct in asking about their commitment level and understanding, and proactively look for chances to offer more support or address any lingering doubts.
Be direct but open. Makes sense. Any practical tips for doing this well?
Listening is huge here. Pay super close attention, not just words, but tone, maybe body language if you can see them. Get a feel for their real sentiment, and watch for buying signals. Are they asking detailed questions about implementation, pricing specifics, support? Those are often strong signs. They're serious.
Good cues to look for. What are some specific example questions to gently nudge the sale forward?
The source gives several good ones. What seems like the next logical step for you in this process? Or, based on our conversation, does our solution feel like a good fit for your needs? Maybe, are there any remaining questions or concerns I can clear up for you? A direct one. Is there anything stopping you from moving forward with this? Timeline check. Assuming we finalize things, what's your ideal start date? Value check. Do you see this bringing significant value to your business? And maybe suggest a trial. What are your thoughts on a pilot program to test it out?
Those are definitely direct, trying to surface any final blockers.
Yeah.
Okay, once we sense they are ready, how do we guide them smoothly towards that final purchase decision?
Right, guiding them across the finish line. It's about building their confidence, handling any last-minute jitters, and making the next steps crystal clear. The source points to a few key actions here.
Walk us through those actions. How do we guide them?
One tactic is creating a sense of genuine urgency, if appropriate. Like, just so you know, this promotional pricing ends this month. Does it make sense to lock that in? Or, if hitting that specific date go live is important, we'd need to finalize the agreement in the next day or two. But the source warns, don't fake it or push too hard. It can backfire.
Right. Gentle urgency, not pressure. What else?
Keep reinforcing the value. Remind them of the specific outcomes they wanted. Remember, we talked about achieving that 20% efficiency gain? This solution is designed for exactly that.
Constantly connect back to their goals.
Okay.
Next step.
Make the next step incredibly clear and easy. Tell them exactly what happens next. Okay, the next step is reviewing the agreement. Shall I send that over today? Or, if you're ready, we can get the onboarding scheduled for next week.
Make it simple.
And finally, proactively ask about and address any last concerns. Any final questions or uncertainties at all? Or, if we could just clarify a specific point, would you feel comfortable moving ahead then?
Sounds like it's all about confidence building and making it easy for them to say yes. Okay, now the absolute final stage. Closing the deal. What's the most crucial thing here?
Right at the finish line, the source stresses how vital it is to give them one last chance to voice any final concerns or objections. Even if they seem totally ready, ask.
Why is that last check so important?
Because unaddressed doubts can kill deals at the last second. So, listen actively and empathetically. Let them speak. And when you respond, show you understand. Okay, I understand your concern about the issue. Here's how we address that. And give a clear, confident answer.
Make them feel heard right to the end. Okay, what are some good examples? Closing questions.
The source suggests things like, if we can agree on these final terms, are you ready to move forward today? Or, now that we've addressed those points, do you feel comfortable proceeding? Maybe. What's the final step needed to finalize our partnership? Simply, are you ready to review the agreement and get started? Or schedule it. Can we look at scheduling implementation for next week? And if there's a deadline, this offer is valid until date. Would you like to take advantage of it?
All very direct. Looking for commitment. Any general tips on crafting these closing questions?
Yeah, a few things. Frame them to gently encourage thinking about the benefits of deciding soon, but without pressure. Keep it positive, focus on value, and try to make it feel like a joint decision you're making together.
Okay, we're right there. What about offering choices strategically? How does giving options help close the deal?
Offering choices can be a really smart move at this stage. It kind of reduces the pressure, gives the customer a feeling of control. Plus, if they hesitate between options, it tells you more about their priorities.
Can you give an example of how offering choices might play out?
Sure, the source gives a couple. Scenario 1. Customer still has some questions. Instead of pushing, you say, we could schedule a deep dive call to cover these fully, or if you prefer, we can proceed now and schedule that detailed session right after. What works best for you? They feel heard, get control, more likely to move forward.
Okay.
Scenario 2. Customer hesitates on the proposed package, maybe price. You could offer, we do have a slightly more streamlined package that might fit your immediate needs and budget better, still delivering great value. Want to take a quick look at that option. Opens the door for a win-win.
So it's about flexibility, finding the right fit. What kinds of choices or offers could we present?
The source mentions a few types. Clear plan options. Standard versus premium, maybe long-term discount versus short-term flexibility. Add-on services or features they can choose. Always clearly explain the value of each choice cost savings, ROI. And use timelines, maybe an incentive for deciding quickly, like a discount or guaranteed start date.
Great strategies to make that final step easier. Now, the sale is done, but the relationship isn't right. Let's talk follow-up and strategic upselling.
Absolutely not the end. The initial sale is just the start, hopefully, of a long relationship. Consistent strategic follow-up is key for nurturing that. And finding future upsell opportunities, building partnerships.
Why is that post-sale follow-up so critical?
Several big reasons from the source. It strengthens the long-term relationship, builds loyalty, encourages repeat business. It creates natural opportunities for upselling as you understand their evolving needs. It helps prevent churns to you, catch issues early, and it's gold for gathering feedback to improve everything you do.
All sounds incredibly valuable. How do we approach upselling so it feels helpful, not just like we're trying to squeeze more money out of them? What questions work?
Good question. The source gives examples under evaluating satisfaction and connecting to tangible results. To check satisfaction, how's the solution working out for you so far? Or are you running into any new challenges or opportunities we might be able to help with? To link to results, have you seen the kind of impact on key metric you were hoping for? And looking ahead, what are your longer-term goals for using this type of solution?
Focuses on their experience and future. What are some general techniques for gentle upselling?
The source lists several good ones. Listen first. Happy customers are more receptive. Frame new offerings as logical next steps to get even better results. Clearly state the added value, more time saved. New capabilities. Time it right, maybe after positive feedback or when a new need pops up. Connect it clearly to their situation and goals. Offer choices, not just one upsell option. And use case studies or testimonials showing others benefited.
Builds on the trust you've already established. Any more specific upsell question examples?
Yeah, the source adds categories like creating opportunities for growth and identifying new needs for growth. Have you thought about rolling this out to other teams or interested in exploring how our advanced features could optimize your specific process even further to find new needs? Are there other areas of your business you're looking to improve or any new challenges come up recently we could potentially help with?
Proactively looking for more ways to help them win. Okay, what about leads that didn't buy the first time around? Is it worth going back to them?
Definitely. Often timing or needs just weren't aligned back then. Re-engaging strategically with the right questions can absolutely reopen doors.
What are some good revisiting questions to ask when you circle back?
The source has solid examples tied to goals. Ask, how have things changed at your company since we last spoke? Goal, identify changed needs. Any new initiatives or priorities popped up recently? Goal, find new relevance. Critically, thinking back, what were the main reasons you didn't move forward then? Goal, learn, keep the door open. If your current setup isn't quite hitting the mark, open to a quick chat about how we might help down the road. Non-pressure follow-up. Okay, if I check back in a few months and recheck budget, is the budget you had in mind for this still in the same ballpark?
Those are great for understanding changes and learning from the past. Speaking of learning, how do we keep analyzing our whole sales process and improving based on all these insights?
Continuous improvement is everything in sales, right? The source really hammers home the value of analyzing lost deals. Understanding why you lost is priceless for refining your approach.
Okay, how should we analyze those losses effectively? What are the steps?
Systematically collect data every time you lose. Record the specific reasons, budget, features, competitor chosen. Ask follow-up questions. What were the key factors in choosing the other solution? What specific parts of our offer didn't quite fit? Any feedback for us on how we could improve? Look for patterns across lost deals. Losing on price often, missing a key feature. Then use those insights to make real changes to your product, pricing, sales process.
Treating losses as learning fuel. Could you give a quick example of that in action?
Sure. Say you keep losing deals because a competitor has a much lower entry price. You identify that pattern. Maybe your company then decides to create a more basic, lower priced entry package. You keep your main offering as the premium solution. That adjustment could open up a whole new segment of the market for you.
Makes sense. Adapting based on feedback. Any other techniques for continuous learning?
The source suggests regular sales process reviews with the whole team. Talk about what's working, what's not, brainstorm fixes, use all customer feedback upsells, rejections, and have a system to follow up even with lost leads. Needs change.
So it's this ongoing cycle. Ask good questions, listen hard, learn from everything, and constantly tweak your approach.
Exactly. And as the source wraps up nicely, sales qualification isn't just robotic, it's really an art. It's about building trust and delivering genuine value.
So bringing our deep dive together. Effective sales qualification is all about asking the right questions at the right moments, all the way through. It saves time, saves money, builds better relationships, and ultimately boosts your sales success.
And just remember, at its heart, selling isn't about pushing stuff. It's about understanding problems and building trust by offering solutions that genuinely help people succeed.
So as you think about this, maybe just pick one or two qualification techniques we talked about. How could you start using them right away in your own sales efforts?
And don't forget, all this practical advice, these great question examples, they came directly from that resource, salesqualificationquestions2.pdf, the really handy reference.
Well, thank you for taking this deep dive with us today. We really hope you'll keep exploring how asking strategic questions can absolutely transform your sales results.